Sexualize My Asexual Life, coming live from my phone to you. So yes, I am indeed here with another episode of Asexualize My Asexual Life, which is the place to be for education about asexuality, all things asexual. I share my asexual life journey in order to help you and yours. If you haven't already subscribed, hit that great big subscribe button right here, right now. Please hit that bell icon so you get notified of every time I go live like now or post a new video. Now my arm's probably gonna be really, really tired because I've got to hold the phone. But basically, I've got my Mac tied up with the journal work I'm doing at the moment, the Mind Self journal, so I can't really use it at the moment. But anyway, getting back to tonight's episode, I want to talk to you today about, can you be asexual if you have low sex drive? So I don't know if you know, but there's a lot of controversy going on at the moment. And that's to do with the fact of Avon, asexuality.org, trying to redefine the definition of asexuality on their site. So it's always been known on Avon, asexuality.org as the lack of sexual attraction. And there's a lot of debate because the board of members on Avon want to change the definition without really consulting the people who are on the site, the users, right? And that's why they're meant to be there, for the users. So it's caused a lot of controversy, a lot of uproar, because they want to change it to basically little or no sexual attraction, or low or absent sexual attraction, or something. They basically want to include sexual attraction, like low sex drive in it, basically low sexual attraction in it. That, you know, they want to include that in it, rather than, but instead of including in it, it seems like they want to have that as actually the base for asexuality, as in low sex drive. And so there's a lot of uproar about it at the moment. But can you be asexual if you have a low sex drive? Well, Avon aren't really doing anything new in terms of redefining it globally, but in terms of redefining it on their site, they are. Because Wikipedia, at the time I did this Asexual Perspectives book, Wikipedia, a definition of asexuality was the lack of sexual attraction and or little to no interest in sexual activities. But if someone has a low sex drive, they automatically can be grey asexual if they don't want to act on that low sex drive. So it's not a case of someone having low sex drive but actually having a lot of sex. It's a case of, has the person got a low sex drive and therefore doesn't wish to act on the urge to have sex. Because a grey asexual is someone who experiences sexual attraction under limited, rare or specific circumstances, or who experiences it but not enough to want to act on it. And that's how come if someone's got a low sex drive, they could be on the asexual spectrum and be a grey asexual. However, if you were looking at asexuality as meaning a definite no sexual attraction, then obviously they wouldn't fit into that category. But as asexuality's got a dual actual classification, as in dual description, then they could be on the grey asexual part of the asexual spectrum. So the thing that gets confusing is that anyone on the asexual spectrum calls themselves asexual, but you're only a pure asexual, as it were, if you don't experience any sexual attraction whatsoever. Therefore, if you're a grey asexual, you're still on the asexual spectrum, and usually grey asexuals call themselves asexual because they belong to the asexual spectrum. So you've kind of had, for this number of years now, this kind of dual meaning for asexual. One is for a person who experiences no sexual attraction whatsoever, and the other is for anyone on the asexual spectrum whatsoever. And if someone's a grey asexual, they still fall under the asexual spectrum rather than sexual spectrum because they don't experience the usual type of sexual attraction. It's low or it's absent, as in it's low or not there at all. So some people who have got a low sex drive do class themselves as asexual. And they do class themselves as asexual because they feel that the sexual attraction they feel is that insignificant that they're not the normal sexual person. Now, it is up to other people how they define themselves. It's not up to us to dictate that. However, we do need to make sure asexuality is being taken seriously, and we do need people to understand the differences across the asexual spectrum, because otherwise you could end up getting someone who doesn't experience any sexual attraction whatsoever to someone who, you know, would have sex a lot if they could, if they experience sexual attraction in that moment, and that's basically is what it's like on the asexual spectrum. You've got those who don't experience any sexual attraction, is sex repulsed and can't stand it, to people, for example, who are demisexual, who do experience sexual attraction only when a deep emotional bond has been formed. But once they experience that, they often want sex as much as another person might. Not all of them. Some of them can live without sex and don't need it and don't have to have it, or may even be not interested enough to do that. But, on the whole, a demisexual then becomes sexual once they form that deep emotional connection. They want sex like most other regular sexual people would, but they still belong to the asexual spectrum because their core identity originates from asexuality. So that's how come they still identify as asexual in that way rather than sexual, even though they've kind of gone over to the sexual spectrum in terms of the amount of sexual attraction they usually feel. But they're still on the asexual spectrum because it's where they originated from. It's like when you are born in a certain country but move to another one, you're still like, I'll still be British even if I move to America. I'm not going to move to America, but say I did, I'll still be British. It doesn't stop me being British just moving to America because my origin is from Britain. Do you know what I mean? So it's like that for demisexuals. Their origin is asexuality because they don't experience sexual attraction else. So just because they then become sexually active and experience sexual attraction, they don't completely go over to the sexual spectrum because they originated, on the asexual spectrum. But some demisexuals don't even class themselves as asexual. I met a lesbian who was on the train going to Pride when I was a speaker at the UK Asexuality Conference in 2018. And she was demisexual and she never classed herself as asexual at all. And I told her, oh, well, demisexuality is on the asexual spectrum. She just kind of looked at me in a weird way thinking, I don't class myself that. That's basically what she said, that, she didn't class herself as asexual at all. So it's very interesting. The danger is, if we do start saying low sexual attraction, then we don't differentiate ourselves from other sexual orientations, because the main point of asexuality being lack of sexual attraction is that it defines us as a different sexual orientation, which we are. And demisexuals and grey asexuals still fit into the asexual spectrum because the usual sexual attraction is lacking. It's not there. So they lack sexual attraction in comparison to the usual sexual attraction. So they still fit in with the lacking sexual attraction definition, just that they don't lack sexual attraction in the same way as the rest of the asexual spectrum does, because they're on the grey asexual end of the spectrum, if that makes sense. So this is how the asexuals, demisexuals still fit into the no sexual attraction or lack of, well, it's not called no, it's called lack of sexual attraction. We must always remember the original definition, lack of sexual attraction, doesn't actually mean to say no sexual attraction, as everyone's taken it to mean no sexual attraction. Lack of sexual attraction can still encompass the whole asexual spectrum as it is without changing the definition, because grey asexuals lack the usual sexual attraction. But they wouldn't be a pure asexual because they're grey, right? So, you know what I mean? It does get very complicated, but in a nutshell, if someone has a low sex drive, it's possible they could class themselves asexual. And in that case, they would be on the grey asexual end of the spectrum. They experience sexual attraction, but not enough to want to act on it, would usually be what a low sex drive person would fall into that category obviously, like I said, it's up to the individual how they define themselves. But I just wanted to let you know that is how grey asexuals would still fit into the asexual spectrum, even with a lack of sexual attraction, because they still lack the usual sexual attraction. It's not normal, the attraction that they experience in comparison to regular sexuals. So I hope you've understood this video. So does someone who experiences low sex drive identify themselves as asexual? It depends on the individual, whether they do or not. Some won't, you know, and you can get penetration repulsed heterosexuals, for example. Just because someone's, you know, not asexual doesn't mean to say that they're not sex repulsed. I've had someone recently come into my asexual friends group who's actually a sex repulsed, well, penetration, specifically penetration repulsed heterosexual, and they don't know what to do. They don't know where to go. So I've allowed them in my friends group. It's very difficult for them. And I've met others that are actually not, you know, I met one guy on a dating site that was penetration repulsed, and he said he doesn't really tell anyone about it because he still experiences sexual attraction, basically. He just doesn't want to have the penetration, you know. And then I met another guy in the asexual community. Eventually, well, shortly blocked me because I found out that he's penetration repulsed. Really, it wasn't sex repulsed as such. You know, I think sexual repulsed, should I say? Like, he liked doing other stuff, just he was penetration repulsed. He was clearly a heterosexual penetration repulsed person covering themselves up as an asexual person. But obviously, because they have, you could argue, because those people have a low drive actually to have penetrative sex, then, you know, you see how this could be turned around to encompass those people in the asexual community as well. Because someone could turn around and say, oh, well, if you have a low drive for sex, but they still have a sex drive, just they can't bring themselves to do the penetration. That's why they don't class themselves as asexual usually, because they still experience sexual attraction. It's just they just grossed out by the penetration stuff. But, you know, this is how people can take a definition and make it what they want. You know, I wouldn't advise people to make things what they want. I think in order for asexuality to be taken seriously, we really, you know, without gatekeeping, without telling anyone what they can and can't be, there still needs to be clear guidance on what an asexual person actually is and what they're like, you know? Because otherwise there is a danger that anyone will come into the community and call themselves asexual. If people keep saying, oh, you can use the label if you want it, just really casually, they'll be like, oh, right, I'm a heterosexual person. I'll come along and just use the label. Why not? I mean, I was Googling asexuality because obviously I check out, you know, what other videos and what other stuff's going on. And there was this foreign thing saying asexual. So I clicked on it and it was literally cartoons of having oral sex. It was disgusting. So some people are using the word asexual in videos now to, when it's got nothing to do with being asexual. It's the opposite. So it's pretty gross, you know. So, you know, I don't want people to use asexuality. Like I said, it's on this channel before. It's not a jacket you can just try on for size and go, oh, hey, I'm going to try being asexual for today. It's a genuine sexual orientation. If we want to be taken seriously, we need to actually be saying, you know, like, this is serious stuff. You know, it's up to people how they identify. Of course it is, definitely. But there should be research done before you start saying, oh, I'm asexual. Do your research and double check you are, you know? I mean, obviously a lot of people who come to this channel know they're asexual. But, you know, I get some people and they're just telling other people, oh, just use the label if it fit, if you think it fits you. But it's like in a casual, like, you've just come to the community, just stick it on you type thing, not as in actually take the time to get to understand asexuality and if you are properly or not, you know what I mean? I did 3 weeks of research before I started shouting about the fact I was asexual, you know what I mean? Because I wanted to discover more about it and where I fitted in. And even if I didn't know perfectly where I fitted in, just know I definitely belonged, you know, and it's definitely me. I think it's important, you know, and there's a danger if people keep saying it, especially in public articles, oh, if the label fits, wear it, that loads of sexual people will just think, oh, I can just stick the label on me now. Do you know what I mean? It's actually an identity. It's a genuine sexual orientation. It's not just a label. Do you know what I mean? It just sounds like something you'd stick on a coat. It's not like that. It's people's lives you're playing with. It's people's genuine sexual orientation. I think it should be taken a lot more seriously. Only if we're taken seriously can we help prevent things like sexual abuse and rapes and stuff like that. Because when we're taken seriously, then people can understand that if you're dating an asexual who's sex repulsed, not sex positive or neutral, sex repulsed, who doesn't want it anyway, and they're pushing, you know, then they need to know it's sexual abuse, you know, especially trying to have sex with someone who never wants it in the first place, as opposed to some people who play sexual games and like playing hard to get. You know, there's a huge difference in that. That's why asexuality needs to be taken seriously as a genuine sexual orientation, so no asexual has to live in fear of ridicule ever again. Instead, we can just live in harmony with each other, you know, and the world can be a better place. That's what I say. Anyway, I hope you found this video useful, helpful, insightful. If you have, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already and hit that great big bell icon so you get notified of every time I go live like that or post a new video. Lots of love. Take care. Bye. Bye.